Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. So we talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm Roche Jaffrey. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our video. Now we're talking the Kentucky Wildcats. The one issue that I've been saying for the past few videos is that they need more offense. They need more three-point shooting being added to their roster because the Kentucky Wildcats, so far under Mark Pope, they've been bringing in a ton of players that are great at defense, and that's great, but you just can't have great defensive players and not have a lot of guys that are really good at offense, or you're not going to have a great team in college basketball. But Kentucky, they have solved one of their issues, and that's three-point shooting with the announcement that Koby Brea, the former Dayton guard, has committed to the Kentucky Wildcats. I'm going to go over how big of a role Koby Brea will play for the Kentucky Wildcats next season, and still what else Mark Pope has to do in the portal to help make Kentucky a dangerous team next season in college basketball, and a team that Kentucky fans really want to watch next season. Now, we know Kentucky fans' expectations are through the roof. That's why John Calipari left for the Arkansas job. He didn't want that pressure anymore. But Mark Pope's coming into the program, and he knows he's got big shoes to fill to get Kentucky back to the top of college basketball. And he's made some solid moves so far. And I've been a little critical of the moves because of the fact that, again, some of these players are just not great offensive players. These guys shoot a poor percentage at the free throw line, and that's not going to be great when you're in tight games down the stretch and you need free throws to be able to win the game, and then your players miss the free throws, and then you're going to end up losing because of that fact. And Koby Brea, the one thing that he is really good at shooting the basketball, he's not going to really be able to help out in the free throw department because he never gets to the line. That's one of the downsides to Koby Brea. But first things first, let's talk about the positives with Koby Brea. He was the best three-point shooter in college basketball this past season statistically when it comes to field goal percentage. He shot 49% from the three-point line this past season. And you would think, well, he did not shoot a lot of threes this past year. There's no way that he went out there and knocked down a ton of threes and shot that well. He actually did, though. He shot 201 threes this past season at Dayton, and he made 100 of them. So he basically hit 50% of his threes, and that is a decently high volume. Now, obviously, there are guys in college basketball that shoot way more threes, and they only make around 35 to 36% of them. But to me, I still think that player is more valuable because even though they shoot a worse percentage from three, they're giving you more points. They're giving you more scoring. But Koby Brea, he is a situational player. He only takes good shots, as you can tell. He's not a guy that just chunks up any type of opportunity that he can get from the three-point line. He waits until he has a perfect opportunity to line up a really good-looking three, and then he knocks it down literally half of the time. And I think there is a spot for that in college basketball and on a team like the Kentucky Wildcats. Obviously, it works better at a smaller school because there's less talent on those teams, and he can go out there and get more opportunities from three. It might be a little bit harder in the SEC, and Koby Brea might have to take some shots that he wouldn't have taken at Dayton because he only wants to take wide open threes. But Koby Brea is going to have to adjust a little bit to the SEC. But as long as he continues to shoot around 40% or better from the three-point line, I think Kentucky can afford his shooting percentage to go down a little bit as long as he's still hitting a fairly high amount of threes and he's shooting enough where he is a valuable player for the Kentucky Wildcats. Because when you are a three-point sniper, if you're not doing your job and you're not shooting a lot of threes, it doesn't really do you any good to have you on the floor outside of you're pulling a defender away from the other players on the team. Other than that, you're basically just useless out there. So Koby Brea is going to have to take shots. But as I said earlier, he's not going to help in the free throw department because he only shot 16 free throws this past season at Dayton. He made 14 of them, which is great, but he never goes to the line because he barely takes twos. He only shot 45 twos this past season at Dayton, and he made over half of them. So he's very efficient from the two-point line as well because he takes good shots. But I do think he's going to have to shoot the basketball a little bit more next season at Kentucky and be able to possibly shoot more shots that aren't quality if he's going to be able to have a big impact, because it's not going to be as easy for him to get open looks in the SEC. Almost every single season at Dayton, he improved his points per game. As a sophomore, he averaged 8 points per game, and then it went down to 7 points per game in his junior year. And then in his senior year at Dayton, he averaged 11 points per game. So he definitely had his best season this past year. He also averaged 4 rebounds and 1 assist. So even though he is a 6'6", 6'7" type of player, he's not a fantastic rebounder, but he does give you some rebounding for a guy that is more known as a three-point shooter and playing more out on the wing. So that's not too bad. But I think one of the biggest keys to Koby Brea's commitment to the Kentucky Wildcats is listening to what he said when he committed. He said, growing up, I was told I was dreaming too big whenever I'd say my dream was to play for the University of Kentucky. I feel like God does everything for a reason, and he has put me in a position where I'm able to play for my dream school in my last year of college while playing for something bigger than myself. That is massive news for Kentucky because he's a guy that wants to be at Kentucky, kind of like how Luke Goody transferring to Indiana the other day. He's from the state of Indiana. He grew up an Indiana fan. He wants to play for the Hoosiers. He knows his role is going to probably be off the bench next season for IU, but he doesn't care because he wants to play for that school. And I believe it's the same situation here with Koby Brea. Even if he doesn't start next season for the Wildcats, which more than likely he won't, he probably will come off the bench as a 6th or 7th man, being a three-point sniper. It does not matter to him because he just wants to go out there and play for his dream school. And now that Mark Pope is the new head basketball coach at Kentucky, and they need more offense because Mark Pope knows he's bringing in a ton of great defensive players, but needs more offense on the team for next season. He's bringing in a guy that fills that role for the Kentucky Wildcats, and he wants to be there as well because the Wildcats were his dream school. That's an awesome story, and to me, that's one of the best parts of the transfer portal because guys that did not ever think they would have had a shot to play at a bigger school in college basketball are now getting that chance after playing at a smaller school for a few seasons, and then maybe in their last year or two of college basketball, they get to transfer up to a bigger school. That is one of the big positives of the transfer portal, and it's big for Kentucky that they landed Koby Brea because he also had Duke, North Carolina, Kansas, and UConn on his list of schools that he was considering. Basically all the blue bloods in college basketball almost, but those other schools, especially teams like Duke and Kansas and UConn, their rosters are more loaded for next season. North Carolina, I could have seen him going there, but they just got Kate Tyson from Belmont, so that's why Koby Brea picked Kentucky. It's just a perfect fit. And Koby Brea also said playing for new Kentucky coach Mark Pope, whose BYU team ranked 3rd in college basketball in three-pointers attempted last season, is a natural fit for his style of play. I definitely agree with that. When you have a coach that has a track record of having teams that prioritize three-point shooting, that should help Koby Brea fit right in with Kentucky next season. And he is only one of 4 players in college basketball history to make 100 three-pointers in a season while making 50% of his attempts. And one of those players was Steve Kerr, and we know how good of a shooter Steve Kerr was in his day. So that is definitely a good look for Kentucky. Now, if you want my thoughts on the other players Kentucky has brought in through the portal recently, I have made videos on Brandon Garrison committing to Kentucky, Otega Owe, and Amari Williams, and I've also talked about Lamont Butler and Andrew Carr in those videos as well. So Mark Pope is definitely working hard in the transfer portal right now to build a roster for next season. Travis Perry is the only high school player from John Calipari's recruiting class that has stuck around. The rest of the roster is going to have to be built through the portal, and Kentucky now has over half of the roster spots filled, but they still got 6 roster spots left, and I think that Kentucky's going to have to bring in at least 2 or 3 more quality players through the portal if they're going to end up being one of the better teams in the SEC and in college basketball next season. As of now, I would say that their roster is probably a borderline top 40 team, but Mark Pope is not done yet, and I think with the addition of Koby Brea, it is a good sign that maybe the next couple of players that he brings in through the portal are going to be more offensive-minded players because the other players he has brought in are really great at defense. It's good to have that defensive foundation, but you also need offense in modern-day college basketball, and Koby Brea's addition definitely fits that bill, and pairing him with the other players Kentucky has brought in that are better at driving the basketball and at defense, I think it's a good fit for him, and now Kentucky is probably a couple of quality transfer portal players away from having a really good team in college basketball next season. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below about Kentucky filling a massive need with Koby Brea transferring to the Kentucky Wildcats with his ability to knock down threes and be a guy that can space the floor, and whether you believe that he will be a good fit for Kentucky next season and he'll have a big role on the team, and what else you think that Mark Pope has to do in the transfer portal to help make Kentucky one of the best teams in the SEC next season. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Follow me on Twitter as well. Link is in the description, and I'll see you next time.